Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to do the braided cast-on. So you can do this with 2 strands or you can do it with 3. I'll show you how to do both. And then I'll also show you how I like to cheat doing the Latvian braid instead, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is start by taking both strands, holding it together, and you're going to make a slip knot and just put it onto your needle. You can remove this later. This is just to help you cast on, so that way you've got an anchor point. If you're familiar with the long tail cast on, take one of your strands. So the back one is going to be one color, your front one's going to be the other. So white is in the back for me, gray is in the front. Doesn't matter which one, as long as you keep them straight. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a long tail cast on for 1 stitch. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to rotate your stitches. And this is important. You need to make sure that you're rotating your front stitch up and over your back stitch. And your back stitch is coming down and under your front stitch. Okay, so now I've got my slingshot in the opposite direction, and I'm going to knit another stitch. So now I've got a white stitch and a gray stitch. We're going to rotate them again the same way, and we're going to keep rotating in this direction. And this rotation is what's causing the stitches to have a braided effect. You cannot really make it out right now until I've really worked a few stitches here and that you've worked a couple of rows, because what's happening here is the braided cast on is on the bottom of the stitches, and they look a little stretched out because they're being stretched this way onto the needle. So once you've knit a row or two, those stitches will then stretch out lengthwise and make the braided version, the braid here, look a little bit cleaner. Yeah. So why is it important for you to rotate your stitches in that direction? And the reason for that is that it's going to change the braid from a braid to a cord. So if you want to do a cord twisted cast on, you can do it that way. So to do that, you're just rotating it in the opposite direction. So back goes up over top, front goes down under bottom. And then you're just going to continue doing the long tail cast on. And then you're getting a twisted cord cast on. Notice how it looks. I'll straighten this out so you can actually make the difference. See the difference? We've got a braid here, right there. And then here, there is no braid. It's just the cords are twisting past each other. So now if you want to do a triple colored cast on, I'm just going to grab from my only other worsted here. What you're going to do is you're going to take all 3. You're going to make your slip knot with all 3. And I'm just going to hold that out of the way. So I've got 3 strands here. So you need to determine which strand is number 1, which one's number 2, and which one's number 3. So I'm going to go from lightest to dark. So 1, 2, 3. So what you're going to do is you're going to take strand 1 and 2 and make a slingshot. Strand 1 is in your finger, strand 2 is in your thumb, and you are going to long tail cast on. So now here's the tricky thing about the third color one, is you're actually going to drop color number 1. Color number 2 is going to go over your finger, and color number 3 is going to go over your thumb. And color number 1 is going to be hanging. Then you're going to do a long tail cast on. Okay? And then you're going to drop color number 2. Number 3 is going to go to the back, and you're going to pick up number 1 again. And you're going to keep doing this same motion of dropping your back stitch, taking your front stitch, bringing it up and over the back, up and over to the back, and then you're going to take your hanging stitch that was there from a previous round and keep working it. This is a very slow stitch, but you can see after a few stitches here that my braided cast on is starting to come together. I'm finding that if you put too much tension into the into the cast on, you're going to have some issues with it being stretched out there. So just keep that in mind. Try to work taut, not tight, and keep an eye that your strands are going to get caught past each other. They're going to rotate around each other, so you may want to unwind your yarn as you go. So the final one I'm going to show you today is how I cheat with a Latvian braid. Oh, fuck off. There we go. Okay, so the last variation of this that I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you how I cheat with the Latvian braid. So what I do is I take the two strands and I'm going to make a slip knot just like I would for the 2-strand braided cast on, and I'm going to hold it like a long tail cast on. But I'm going to be doing an alternating long tail cast on. So I'm going to cast on one and then cast on the opposite direction. Keep in mind when you do it the way I just showed you there that your purl stitches, so the one I just did here, is going to be mounted wrong. So just keep that in mind when you go around for your next round. So all I'm doing here is I'm just casting on one by one in alternating colors. Okay, and then if you're making a hat, this is what I usually do this on, you can do it with mittens. You would cast on as many stitches as you need to join in the round, and then you join in the round. I am going to do a speed swatch here today. All right, so I'm just doing a speed swatch here today. So so I'm not going to do the entire round. I'm just going to do a little bit here. When you get to your first double stitch, this slip knot here, what I do is the first round, I will slip it and ignore it, and then I will continue on. So just like doing a Latvian braid, what you're going to be doing is you're going to bring your yarn to the front, and you're going to hold one stitch, hold one of your strands at a time, and you're going to purl. So always purl like colors together. So if this stitch on your offhand needle is the dark color, then you're going to go with the dark color. You're going to go with the dark color. So what you're going to do is you're going to purl, and then you're going to drop this stitch, and you're going to take the other stitch. It doesn't matter which direction you go. You can go over or under. So I'm going to go over because that's what I prefer to do. But I'm going to go over, and I'm going to purl my next stitch. Okay, so drop that, take the other one, and it's going to go over again. All right, so so as you can see here, I've got a little attractive edge there, and then I've got the first part of my Latvian braid done here. So now what you're going to do So now what I like to do is I actually drop my twin stitch there, and I will pull that entirely out. Just ignore those ends there. I will pull that entirely out and use my tail to sew in later. You can use these ends here to sew your Latvian braid in such a way that it completely hides it. And then next thing that you're going to do is you'll notice that my strand down here is really twisted. If you're doing 150 stitches, your strand is going to be very, very twisted, because as you're adding this twist into the yarn, when you're going over in my case, you are adding that twist to your yarn heading towards your balls. You can either untwist it, or you can just leave it as is, because this next step will untwist it. Okay, so I just did the first couple there to clean my stitches. So now that I'm on my second row, I'm actually going to be twisting my stitches in the opposite direction. Before I was twisting it this direction, taking my next stitch and going over. Now, since I'm doing the second round, I want to do the opposite. So I'm going to take it and go under. This has the dual effect of completing your braid on the third row here, and has the dual effect of completing your braid, and if you haven't untwisted your strands while working, it'll actually untwist the strands in your working yarn. All right. So now I'm done. My yarn is actually untwisted now. And I'm just gonna quickly cut this little bit from my speed swatch. Please ignore it. This is just me doing a speed swatch. So I will hide all those stitches there. So now you can see that I've got a braided edge. So there's my Latvian braid, as squeezed there between my fingers. And then I've got an attractive little braided edge there as well. So it's kind of like two braided edges in one. I hope you found that this tutorial was helpful. If you'd like a longer form version of doing the Latvian braid, I will put a link down in the description of a previous video that Simone, Matthew, and I did back in December of 2021, where we did a question and answer of our podcast back a little more than a year ago. And as part of that, there was an over-shoulder view of me doing a Latvian braid from start to finish for a hat. So you can sit down. It answers a number of questions that people might have about me, Matthew, Simone, and the business as a whole. And you can knit along with me on how to do a Latvian braid. I break it down into several points where it's just I tell you how to do a cast on, and I tell you how to hold over your yarn just like I did before. And then there's, 10-15 minutes of us just shooting the shit while I'm doing the Latvian braid. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.